Ready.
That's fine. Thank you very much. Good night. Good welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting today, January 28, 2018. Here being at 6:32. The meeting will be in recess until 7 p.m. due to procedural concerns and a advice of legal town council. We will continue the meeting at 7 p.m. Thank you very much. Thank you. We'll now stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Before we do public appointments, I think I'd like to do public announcements, if anyone has any. Jim?
I do not.
Tim? Do not. Kenny?
The Abington Police received a certificate of appreciation from Home Base. Ryan Cassavant, Veteran Outreach Coordinator from Home Base, was in the police office to present the department with a certificate for the participation in the No Shave November. Officers from Abington raised over $1,100 to complement the over $200,000 raised this year in this noble campaign to assist veterans and their families.
Thank you very much. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay. Tom?
Sure. This is from the Abington Police Department, Community Partners, advisory food collection for the food pantry. As everyone knows, December ushers in the holiday, and during that time, many of us get in the spirit of giving. But what happens in the months to follow is that we have a tendency to focus back into our own lives, and not the lives and happiness of others. In turn, the Abington food pantry shelves begin to get as bare as those in need continue to struggle to make ends meet. For this reason, the Abington Police Department has joined longtime Abington resident and strong supporter of the food pantry, Mrs. Kathy Gambino, in collecting non-perishable food items in our police station lobby from February 1st through February 15th. The items collected will later be delivered by members of the police department directly to the Abington Food Pantry. If every resident can help by donating one or more non-perishable item, and maybe tell one of your friends to do the same, together we can all work to make a huge difference. For those that don't know, the Abington Food Pantry has served the community for over 50 years and typically helps over 500 families annually. For those that may rather make a monetary donation, please send it to St. Vincent de Paul Food Pantry at 455 Plymouth Street, Abington, Mass. 02351. For every dollar donated, the pantry has the ability to purchase close to $10 worth of food, as it also collaborates with Boston Food Pantry. There is a tax ID number 104826 for the local businesses that may want to consider helping. Please consider helping the Abington Police Department continue our community partner philosophy by dropping off a non-perishable item in the police station lobby. We guarantee that you will walk out with a great feeling, knowing that you assisted those less fortunate than yourselves. Thank you from the Abington Police Department.
Thank you, Tom. We have some public appointments to go through. It being 7:03, is Peter Walters here? Please step up to the mic. Name and address, Stephen. Name and address, please.
Peter Walters, 157 Green Street.
Hi, Peter. Peter's here to be appointed to the Cable Advisory Committee. If you'd like to just inform the committee why you'd like to be on the committee.
Okay. I've lived in Abington since 1985, been member of Finance Committee from 2014 to 2018, still a member of the School Building Committee, and also a current member of the Abington CAM. The reason I would like to be on the Cable Advisory Committee is to facilitate the best deal we can with the two cable providers. We have an upcoming contract with Comcast in September, and we have a number of items that we would like to address with them.
Any questions from the board?
Nope.
Nope.
Another volunteer.
I'll take a motion, please, to appoint Peter Walters to the Abington Cable Advisory Committee.
I'll make that motion.
Tom makes that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Jim seconds that. Any further to say? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. It's unanimous. Welcome to the board. Thank you very much for your help, sir.
Thank you.
Yasmin Zakari. Yaz's. Hi. Welcome back.
Again.
Again. Yasmin is here trying to arrange for an entertainment license for her business, Yaz Table at 1209 Bedford Street in Abington. The last time we met, we were going to sit with Dory and go over the correct timings for your application.
Yes.
Are we satisfied with the timings on the application?
We are satisfied, yes, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any other comments from the board that needed satisfaction before we have a vote? Was anybody else have any other questions for the application or the?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Last time you were here, I recommended maybe looking at the times for the entertainment license, considering there was going to be some entertainment outside.
Yes.
It was my feeling that having it till midnight was a little late,
Correct.
especially during the week.
Correct.
I noticed no change to that. So you are applying for an entertainment license until midnight.
For inside would be great. I understand patio for a lot of facilities do have a different time frame, which is actually works in my favor because I wouldn't want people to be there much longer, being that we are a breakfast restaurant. Everyone has to be there at 6 a.m. So 9 o'clock at night would be perfect. If it would only be used a couple of times throughout the year anyways, but that would be great if the board would grant that.
Is that something, Mr. Chairman, we could do as a contingency, or
I believe,
how would we go about that?
Dory, we can do that on this application. We can set an outdoor limitation till 9 PM at night,
Absolutely.
and,
Local decision.
okay. So, yes, Tim, we can set a limitation for outdoor patio entertainment. It has to end by 9 PM, and we can set that limitation any way we want to.
Thank you.
Any other members of the board have any concerns or questions?
Are there still two different issues at hand here? One for alcohol outside, and then one for the entertainment license?
Exactly.
So does it require 2 votes?
2 votes. One vote would be exactly for the alteration of premise for the liquor license, and the second vote would be for the entertainment license for the outdoor patio, should you vote the alteration of premise. So 2 separate issues.
Personally, I have no problem with the entertainment license till 9 o'clock outside. I would like to see it maybe a trial basis for 6 months and then come back. And, you know, if there's no issues with neighbors, then we can just make it a permanent thing.
What are your feelings on that?
I'm just a little concerned because I do know that there is a current issue with a particular individual where respectfully I understand, and I just want to not have it to be something that's a back and forth. If there's a level that we could all agree to, and I'd make sure for the sound level, lack of better terms, that the town could grant, so then it would be, you know, if I was to go over that, then I'd understand I'd be violating, but there's got to be some type of limit for both.
Well, I think that what that does, it enables us to, if there is a complaint, go down there and, on our own time, monitor the situation and see if we feel it's concerned too. It's just my personal opinion.
Any other board members have similar concerns or other concerns? Did you want to make a motion, Ken, for that?
I will just amend the motion for 6 months. Make it for 6 months.
Okay, we have a motion to amend the outdoor patio for 6 months?
Outside entertainment license.
Outside entertainment license for 6 months?
Yep.
To be reconsidered again?
Till 9 o'clock.
Would we have to keep this open for that period of time, or just reopen it again at that
I
point
would
in
think that
time?
if we have no complaints, we could just issue the permit for the rest of the year.
Okay, can we do that without bringing her back, or
If there's no complaints?
is that all right with you?
Yes.
Okay. So I have a motion for the outdoor entertainment license to be limited till 9 PM and to be limited to a trial basis of 6 months, and will be reviewed by the board after the 6-month trial base, and if there are no violations, we will renew the license or approve the license permanently, for the rest of the year. Is that what you said, Ken?
Yeah, probably need a second on the amended motion, though.
All right, do I have a second on the amended motion?
I'll second the amended motion.
I have a first and second. Is there anything further to say on that motion? Not,
Public hearings, we should ask for public comment.
okay, is there anyone in the audience for public comment on this? Yes, please, Ian. Name and address, please.
Yep. Ann Welch, 81 Highland Road.
Hi, Ian.
Hi, Bob. I just want to restate my opposition for reasons that I've given in the past, is that I think that aside from the noise level, which is hard to control, the safety hazard, I feel that once that road is widened and a wall or whatever goes up there, you're going to have people sitting right on Route 18, literally, as well as the additional traffic coming in and out of what is already a congested area, trying to get into the gym, to Sullivan Tire, to you name it. So I just wanted to restate my opposition.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Any else public comment on this issue? Having seen none, and we have a first and amended with nothing for, anything other public comment? If not, I'll take a vote to allow the entertainment license for Yaz Table at 1209 Bedford Street with the limitations that it's set for outdoor patio. Entertainment will cease at 9 p.m. and on a trial basis for 6 months, and if no violations are heard during those 6 months, we will permit the permit for the rest of the year. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It's unanimous, 5-0 for the
you.
entertainment license. One moment, please. Now we have to have another vote on the alcoholic beverage outdoor.
Yes.
I'll take a motion to accept the adaptation to the common particular license to allow for outdoor sales of malt, wines and malt beverages and cordials and liqueurs.
I'll make that motion.
Tim makes that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Jim seconds it. Is there any further comments on that? Is there any public comment on this?
Can I just ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, Ken.
I know that a letter was sent to the police and the other departments in town to see if there were any concerns.
No, there weren't any
There's no
concerns
concerns?
for the alteration of premise. No, just that they would adhere to the noise regulations, and the Board of Health has sound regulations as well.
Okay.
Anything else from the board? Not all in favor of the amended alcoholic beverage license, common particular license, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. It's unanimous, 5-0. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Kevin Donovan will speak to the board regarding Union Point update, please. Thank you.
There's not much going on up there, right?
No, no. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the members of the board. For the record, Kevin Donovan, 78 Adams Street, Abington, and I'm the town's representative to the Southfield Redevelopment Authority, which is charged with the redevelopment of the former Naval Air Station at South Weymouth. And with me tonight also is Joe Shea, who is a member of the advisory board and has been for quite some period of time. As you know, I was appointed to the board of directors in September, so I've been there a mere 4 months, I should say. And just to give you a sort of an encapsulated update, in 2014, Chapter 291 was passed by the legislature and signed by the governor, which reconstituted and renamed the former South Shore Tri-Town Development Corporation, which I was the chief executive officer of, and renamed it and diminished its authority and constituted the Southfield Redevelopment Authority. The authority is made up, the board of directors, of 9 members, 1 representing the town of Abington, myself, 2 representing the town of Rockland, 2 from the town of Weymouth, 2 residents of the Southfield that reside in Southfield, a representative from the Norfolk Labor Council, and a representative from the South Shore Chamber of Commerce. The total acreage of the former Naval Air Station comprises about 1,440 acres, of which, within the geographic bounds of the town of Abington, Abington has about 178 acres, of which 43 of those are designated as open space for public purpose and conservation purposes. Currently, there are, we've issued about 1,043 residential units, of which roughly 2,000 residents currently reside there. From a commercial standpoint, the commercial space is occupied 43,000 square feet of 40,000 square feet is the long-term care facility at Faring Way, and 3,000 is for Equitable Bank. The Navy, the U.S. Navy, still has about 104 acres left that we're in the process of cleaning up, and they'll be transferring to us over the next 5 years. So that's completed. Originally, as I indicated, the base encompassed 1,440 acres. About 1,387 of that was under the care, custody, and control of the United States Navy. About 52 of that, if my mind serves me correctly, is under the U.S. Coast Guard, and 1 under the Federal Aviation Administration for the Doppler radar that's over there. That's sort of where we are on a global standpoint. Now, to the question, as all of you have seen roughly in the newspapers over the last period of time. I was fortunate, the first meeting I walked into, L-Star Land Ventures was in a cross-suit with each other. They had, were having internal issues within themselves. They had failed to develop their end of the bargain. The Board of Directors had named them master developer for the entire complex. They had failed to keep up their end of the bargain in terms of notifying the Commonwealth about what their procedures were, what their financial abilities were. And as a result of that, on December 5th, the Board of Directors notified L-Star that they were in default. Now, what happens at that point, once we notified them they're in default, they have 30 days to cure that. They have not met that ability as of yet. We're meeting again this week. We've been meeting quite a bit, quite extensively on the issue. As part of an issue to obtain money, L-Star mortgaged their land. And currently, they have failed to pay on that mortgage that is being held by Washington Capital through the Carpenters Union. Carpenters Union, I understand, invested over $60 million in the property. L-Star has failed to make payment on that. Washington Capital has now put that land, about 121 acres of residential, in foreclosure, of which the foreclosure notice has been served and will take place on February 7th. There is another lien holder of roughly 214 acres of commercial land that has yet to move forward, to my understanding, into foreclosure yet. L-Star has not paid anything back on that loan as well. So, having said all that, we're in the issue now of when it comes to the auction, if we have people that are interested and buy out their interest, the Board of Directors, because of L-Star's failure to perform, is in a position now where we can terminate their services as master developer. But the problem has been in this whole process is everybody's litigation happy, and they're going back and forth amongst L-Star partners themselves. And so we have to proceed, obviously, very, very finitely as it comes down to once a final determination has made. The current, not all of the parcels that L-Star owns is actually under foreclosure. There is still some land that they hold in their own name that they own outright, and we'll be monitoring that as it goes along. All of the projects that they have put forward have been approved. Nothing has transpired from this day, from that day that they filed with all their issues forward. The land in question, as I mentioned, 121 acres, is comprised of roughly 40 lots from 1/4 of an acre to 30 acres. So the totality of all of those amounts to the 121, and that's the $60 million. On a separate issue in Suffolk Superior Court, the court found and put a banned L-Star from selling off any of its assets worth more than $25,000. So they have separate issues going on with other lenders in addition to the foreclosure issues that's coming forward. So, we're going to be monitoring that and keeping a close eye on where it goes from there. Just very briefly, what does this all mean for the town of Abington? Well, as I mentioned, Abington has 178 acres that is zoned commercial, industrial. That's in, to give you a boundary, if the old tower that is there, it's roughly in that vicinity. And I've maintained all along, and I've told the leadership at the Redevelopment Authority that unless and until they bring infrastructure to the Abington portion, that I'm not prepared to support. In the legislation, we have bonding authority for $175 million. However, of that bonding authority, the bonds, if they exceed the due date of 2035, which is only 16 years away, and Tom well knows in bonding language that that's not that very long of a time, especially these are land assessment bonds. In fact, when I was the CEO over there, we did the first ever land assessment bond in the Commonwealth, so it was new to the market where they used the land as collateral. In this particular case, if the $175 million, if they want to use that for bonding, I am not prepared to support anything unless and until part of that infrastructure is brought to the Abington side so we can develop that property. Interestingly enough, if the bond exceeds a due date of 2035, it needs 2/3 approval of the Weymouth Town Council, the Rockland Board of Selectmen, and the Abington Board of Selectmen. So we do have some leverage down the line to ensure that the property within the corporate boundaries of the town of Abington will be able to be developed. So we'll just keep a sharp eye on that and ensure that, that our interests are protected in that vein. That's sort of it in a nutshell. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I've been keeping the board updated on a regular basis after most of our meetings so that at least you're aware of what's going on before it hits the newspapers, I hope, anyway. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be pleased to entertain any questions from
anything from the board? Any direct impact on the Abington land in the immediate future, and are we getting paid anything at all from anybody?
Well, I believe the taxes, I think, are up to date now, are they not, Jack?
I don't know if they're up to date.
But as of the arrearage, L-Star, I know, had paid before it went into tax title. Yeah. So at this stage, the land is taxable. They do receive tax bills from the town, from that standpoint. Obviously, we want to, the whole idea of this whole plan back in 1998, when everything was originally approved, and actually I sat on the first board of directors representing the town of Rockland when I was town administrator there, and the whole plan was that this entire project would be built out by 2015. Here we are, 2019. So it's been a
best laid plans of mice and men.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you mind if I ask the public if they have any questions?
Sure.
Anyone in the public have any questions for? No? I want to thank you for your continued service. Anybody else on the board?
No, I just want to say thank you. Your communication's been excellent since you've been appointed.
Kevin, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
Okay.
The next thing on the agenda is public comment. I just want to give you a brief stay on the public comment policies for the Board of Abington Town Board. Individuals must state their names and address for the record. Comments and questions must be directed through the chairman of the board. No comments by residents or the general public will be addressed in derogatory or condescending manner to any member of the Board of Selectmen or the staff or personnel of the town of Abington. No personal attacks to members of the Board of Selectmen or the staff will be tolerated. Discussions on the topics which are not on the agenda items are perceived to be personal in nature or direct attacks on integrity of character of any member of the Board of Selectmen, town manager, assistant town manager, or any employee, any town employee, will result in the immediate end of the comment by that individual through the chairman. The general public are encouraged to contact the town manager and attempt to resolve any issues dealing with the staff or the departments before voicing such concerns in front of the Board of Selectmen at a public hearing. The public comment is a privilege provided by the to the general public and is not a right. The abuse of this privilege may result in either public comment being removed from or suspended by the board if the individual engages in politically or making political statements, personal attacks, failing to directly concerns to the chairman, directing their concerns or comments to the chairman, engaging in direct debate with staff. Public comment is not a law required by the public meetings unless such meetings are posted in public hearing, which in public comment is entertained or encouraged. The Board of Selectmen may amend this at any point in time whenever the board wishes to bring up as an issue. I'm going to ask the public to have their public comment. Anyone who has a comment, please follow those rules. Keep to the decorum, please. I will place this meeting in recess. There's a lot of people here. I guess a lot of people have something to say. I'm willing to let them have something to say. Please keep your comments directly to what they need to be. And anyone who wishes to address the board is welcome to address the board. Anyone want to address the board? Yes, sir.
John Nuttall, 84 Constitution Ave. I'm also your fire chief. In that capacity tonight, just a reminder, the occupancy of this room is 75 people. I think you're about 74. Good, it's obvious it's a full room.
Count, chief. Good count.
My concern tonight is one of the items on your agenda, number 2, which is the discussion of the reappointment of the town manager. I'm just going to jump right into that. And you also see a lot of department heads here tonight. There's a lot of concern. You obviously have our attention. The room is full. Whether they're all here for this or the other item, I'm not sure. Speaking just for my department, I'm not going to speak for the other department heads. If they want to speak to it, they can, but I have a concern over what could occur townwide, especially to the town budgets, if you do choose to change the town manager's appointment tonight. We are in the middle of FY20, figuring out the budget for fiscal year 20. In the absolute middle of it, we've got a $1.3 million deficit at this point, which in every year we kind of work through that. The management team works through that with the department heads, with the FinCom, to get this done. This is nothing new. However, if you begin changing the leadership at this point, that may change that entire formula, and it's a very bad time to do that. We're also looking possibly at the beginning of the downturn in the economy, and hopefully not a recession, although it's cyclical and we're due. At this point, I don't believe your town management is broken. I really don't. We are the strongest I think we have been in a long time. I've been a resident and an employee in this town for 50 years. I've seen the bad times, and these are not them, in my opinion. I think for my department, this is the strongest we have been ever. I've been there about 30 years. You built a new school, and we occupied that school seamlessly, and that was with the help from all of the town departments, not only the school department. I'm a resident. My kids go to that school. I appreciated that. You have police officers in that school for the first time under this leadership. My department is the strongest we have ever been, both in personnel and equipment. We still have issues. We all do. We always will. That's part of government. We're never going to be there, but we're managing it. We're trying to do the best we can. And we're looking at town-wide, not individual departments, but the overall health of the town, the financial health of the town, is probably the best it's been in a long time under this management. And I would ask you to please consider carefully what impacts and what chaos may occur if we begin changing that leadership, especially at this time, right in the middle of figuring out FY20, perhaps at the beginning of another economic downturn. This town manager already knows the departments. He knows the history of where we've been, how we operate. To bring somebody new in, assuming you could in that time frame, now we have to, that person would have to learn again how the town works, what works before, what may not have worked. I'd rather not, both as a department head and as a resident, not go back down that road of trying to find out what happens, cut this department, add to this department, pitting departments against department, which we're well past that now, possibly raising the taxes for the residents to get back to where we're at right now. I don't think there's a need for that, personally. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, for public comment, yes, ma'am.
My name's Deborah Dupuy. I live at 1430 Bedford Street. And just a little response on what was just said. There's no good time for chaos. My son was Sergeant Alex Kokoris. He reached out to the town manager, and I know there's issues, this is why we're going through rescind the contract. Okay, he reached out to the town manager, he implored the town manager to help him. What did he do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Public comment? Who's next? Public comment? Pete.
Peter Schaefer, I'm your school superintendent. And with respect to the board and the chair, thank you for allowing the opportunity. But I have to start by telling Mrs. Kokoris how sorry I am. I miss your son, and I say prayers for him. He's a good man. So I know a lot of people feel that way, but I was the first person to the podium following you, so I had to say that. I'm going to be very narrow in what I'm going to say out of respect for the citizens in this community and the board that has a difficult decision to make. I know my role, and my lane is that of your school superintendent and your school superintendent alone. I've had the job long enough to have worked with a number of town managers. And I've been your school superintendent through good times and bad. And I think I still have post-traumatic stress from times we've had to take this town apart and seen what it's done to a school department that I love and a community that I have a love and a loyalty to. I don't want to go back to those days. I've been able to partner with Mr. LaFond on the school project, which is a benefit to this community, and then also just recently adding full-day kindergarten. He didn't do those things by himself. And the chief was exactly right. There were multiple departments that care very much about this community that came together, each department head, to make this all work. But in terms of the management team at the town hall, I've worked with town managers who have not been able to work collaboratively and as a team with the team he has here. The assistant town manager, the treasurer, the accountant, the assessor, Jack and Sonia and Sue Moquin as your accountant, and Dory, they've been able to collaborate with us in the school department to provide what's best for the community in terms of the resources that this community has for its kids. And so I'm going to keep my comments very narrow in that area, in that realm. We've been successful in that relationship and that work. There's other information that people are talking about and privy to that I am not going to engage in because it's not my place. I simply briefly wanted to share that piece about the finances in the school department and being able to collaborate as a town successfully with you. And I'm going to leave it right there.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Public comment. Any additional public comment? Yes.
Joseph Shays, 3 Wyman Road. I have been involved in town government since I joined the Finance Committee in 1978. I've gone through a lot of times in the town, Proposition 2.5 coming in, multiple recessions, multiple other issues. I think at this point the town is as good, in as good a shape as it ever has been in that period. I think the management, the department, and working together is the best I've ever seen. I think we have the best control overall on our finances. We're not perfect. We never will be perfect, and no community ever will be perfect. Do we have issues? Yes. Every town always has issues. We have union issues. We've had union issues before. We've managed to work through them. When I joined the Finance Committee, I joined the Board of Selectmen, we had a contract dispute with one union that lasted 4 years before we jointly were able to resolve it. But I think we have the capacity to jointly resolve the issues, working together. But with the charter, the requirement is that we work through the town manager to give the professional input. We cannot, the town, by an overwhelming majority at town meeting, 415 to 7, and in a general election, 1,100 to 659, voted they wanted a strong town manager to control the day-to-day activities and give that person the responsibility for the day-to-day activities. I think Rick has done a good job at that. I think the other thing I have done is I've experienced a good number of turnovers of either town administrators, executive secretaries when I was a selectman, and we've now on a third town manager. It is not an easy thing to replace. It takes a good deal of time, a good deal of time of effort. There's multiple times I think we've gone out and the first search did not get anybody good. We had to go out for a second search. It's going to cost you time and it's going to cost you money. And there's no guarantee how long it's going to take. And there's no guarantee that you're going to get a better person in than you have now. I think Rick has done a good job. I would say, I think he's done the best of the 3 town managers we've had in. Do we honestly think we're going to do better? I think if there's issues, the selectmen can work with Rick, talk over what the issues and problems with them are, and come up with strategies. If there's problems with the unions, I mean, when I was a selectman, one thing that came up is we we proposed that the Quinn bill be adopted, because that was something that we needed for police. There was a lot of feedback at the time, because I was the chairman, and a lot of people in town said we couldn't afford it. We did manage to get it through the town meeting. We can work through things together. But I just think there's an easy solution out there, or something that's going to solve the problems immediately. I think you're foolish if you did it. I mean, I made mistakes from playing them, but there is no easy answer. I would say you got to look at the overall interest of the town and what is the long-term best interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Anyone in the hallway have public comment? Any item on the agenda with public comment? Nothing? Yes, sir.
Henry DiCarlo, 187 Central Street, and I am the chairman of the Board of Library Trustees. Now, the library is a small part of the town. We have about 1% of the budget. We have a 9-member elected board, and I've been a member of that board for over 30 years now, chairman for a long time. And we have a unique piece of the town charter, because it says that we manage the public library in coordination and consultation with the town manager. Okay. And this was put in there to maintain the requirements of the state laws. That 9-member board is the largest elected board in this town, so in some ways the most representative. And we have worked with, as Joe said, town managers, town administrators, going back a number of years. The staff, the director, the members of our board have felt that this has been the best management that we have had, the best cooperation in personnel issues, in financial issues, in purchasing issues, and any legal issues. We've had good results. I don't want to beat this, but I think you should really consider that this is as good a town manager as you're going to have. And we are very happy with his administration. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, any other open public comment on the agenda items? Anybody in the hall who's back there? Anyone not can hear me? I'm opening for public option. Anybody else want to be said? Yes, sir.
Kevin DiMarzio, 29 Orange Street. 2 different items on the agenda. I want to talk about the Little League Board of Directors and also the town manager. I'll start with the town manager. I spoke before about this at the original vote. I won't go over my words again, but I'm very happy to see that everyone here in the audience is a very strong showing here on both sides. What I do see is a lot of department heads in the audience. I'd like to see more town employees, and I'd love to see them come up and talk about it, because I feel like I only see department heads. Maybe that's just me. Last year when within the town, there's plenty of things that are going on. Our DPW is understaffed. This is an issue that's overflowing into the streets. We have dirty streets. We have a brand new school that we don't even have enough people to cut the grass at. Our DPW, we have, our police department is a turnover. It's consistent turnover. There's a multitude of things if you look around. We have school buildings that are empty. We have other things. As far as replacing a town manager at this time, his contract is through July 1st. So the budget will be fine. Outside of that, per our charter, I do believe that says that there can be a temporary town manager appointed for 6 months, and then they can renew that by Board of Selectmen for another 6 months in this search, if that was to happen. So 2 different things on that. I don't necessarily think it's gloom and doom if that all of a sudden Abington's not going to burn to the ground tonight. As far as the Little League, I'm up here as a town resident. My son played. Last year I had the benefit of going to the fields, and all the fields were overgrown. It was an issue because it became a safety concern. The grass was overgrown to the point where there was white flowers on the grass. just to give you an example, a ball going through the grass, tall grass, it could redirect and cause a safety issue. There was a ton of rocks on the infield. Just wasn't maintained. Even though the white baseball, when it stopped on the grass, you almost couldn't see it because of the grass was overgrown and there was white flowers. Different things like that. So we pay a $25 maintenance fee when you sign up for baseball, and that fee, should be going to maintaining the fields. The Little League last year spent their own money on the Plymouth Street field and hired a private landscaper to take care of it. They went out of their way to do that so that they'd have a nice field. Other towns coming into our fields and having these safety concerns, the appearance of the field, these are all issues. So the Little League needs our help. These kids are playing. We should at least give them a maintained field, if you will. We have the maintenance fees in there. The Little League has done their background. They've done their research. April, May, and June, these are 3 months where we should be taking care of these fields. We have a brand-new school, like I said. The DPW has to cut the grass. Brand-new school is beautiful. It's been a tremendous help to our town, but our DPW, it's all handwork. Pushing mowers, weed whacking, it's a lot, it's time-consuming. So, we don't have the resources. I know there's been a couple different avenues thought of maybe hiring a company for these buildings up here and this and that, but why hire them here if we can just hire them to do the baseball fields for a few different months? Another issue was about cutting the grass. Well, the Arnold Street field, just for example, or the Arnold Park, for example, that's an open field. So regardless if there's baseball or not, it's open field, open land that the DPW is going to cut regardless. Last year, I did work with a lot of the Little League Board of Directors and different parents talking to our DPW, John Stone, about getting the grass cut, because it was pitchers coming in, just tall grass, and it was one of those things, and they tried keeping up with it, but it was still a stretch for them to get up there and be able to cut these fields. There was talk about having the parents take care of it, but within the town, we can't because it's too much of a liability, I guess. Different things, but I think that when they talk tonight, they'll bring up a lot of good points, and I think that something should be changed, and we should be looking out for the kids playing on our fields. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment. Anybody else with public comment? Yes, sir.
Matt Sala, 25 George Gillespie Way. I am also the chairman of the Finance Committee in town. Just a point, like Principal Schaefer, first to Mrs. Korkoros, I did not know your son. My kids miss your son. My kids loved your son. And it is very, very sad. Also, like Principal Schaefer, I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm going to talk about the town finances and the town budget. I've been on the Finance Committee for about 6 years now. The town manager has, in all of that time, done a very professional, very thorough, very good job of bringing departments together to work together and not fight each other over what the allotment of the town's funds are. He brings to us each year at the end of December, beginning of January, a draft budget that is always a little out of balance. And by the time we get through meeting with the different departments and working through the different items in the budget, we have, in each of the years that I've been on the committee, put money away into our stabilization funds, into our funds for post-employee benefits. We've done a good job of bringing the staffing levels in various departments across the town back up, some of them to high water marks overall. And one of the focuses has been the police department staffing. We know that there are other issues with the police department and the turnover in the police department that we all as citizens in the town are very concerned about. But we have been working with the town manager to try to bring up the budgeting and the staffing levels for the police department. And the other thing that I will say, as I mentioned, we just got the first draft budget. Chief Nuttall mentioned that it is about 1.3 million out of balance right now. This is the stretch of time between now and about less than 4 months from now that we are doing the budget, and the town manager is crucial during this stretch of time. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Anyone in the hall with public comment? Yes, sir.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Kevin Pecos. I live at 21 Christopher Drive in Easton, Massachusetts. I had not intended to speak with you tonight, but listening to the proceedings, I decided to offer a few comments that I hope are helpful to you. That's my real intent, is to try to be helpful. I served as a town manager in the state of Massachusetts for a little over 42 years. Retired about 3 years now. I also sat in your seat as a selectman for 9 years when I first came home from the Army back in 1977. I also served as a military officer in the Army for 40 years and as a senior non-commissioned officer. The reason I offer these thoughts is so that hopefully my thoughts for you carry the weight of someone who has spent a great deal of time in his adult life judging character and professional competence of other people. 30-odd years ago, as a town manager in Easton, I published an advertisement to all the graduate schools in public administration in Massachusetts for an intern. I received dozens of applications. We went through a very vigorous screening process, and the gentleman who was selected to be the intern in my office all those many years ago was Mr. LaFont. He served with distinction as an intern in my office, and it was my great pleasure to watch him grow as a professional in his career over those 30-odd years hence. It is one of the great pleasures in life, I hope you have had the experience, of mentoring younger people, and then watching those younger people become your colleagues, and very much your equals, and often much better than you in the pursuit of their profession. I can tell you with great satisfaction and a small dose of pride that over those 30 years since, I have called Mr. LaFont on many occasions and sought his counsel and sought his professional expertise to help me with some problem that I was grappling with in my community. I can tell you that Mr. LaFont is extremely well thought of in the profession. There has been discussion in the profession. The MMA meeting was just this past weekend, before last, about this event happening tonight, about the concern that the event would happen, and here you are. Rick is extremely well respected regionally among the managers, and in point of fact, I had many, many managers ask me to come here tonight, and if necessary, to speak to you with the thoughts I'm offering you. Because those managers are currently in their professions and in their jobs, they were naturally a bit reluctant to get involved. But I'm retired, so I said I would be privileged to bring you those thoughts about Rick. Make no mistake, if you don't trust the words that I'm saying to you, pick up the phone and call any town manager in southeastern Mass and ask them about Rick LaFont. He is universally considered to be one of the senior and one of the best and admired town managers, not just in Southeast Mass, but in the state of Massachusetts itself. I will also tell you, as I said earlier, I've spent most of my adult life judging people's professional competence and their character. Ma'am, I don't know the controversy and I don't know the tragedy that has befallen your family, and I am so sorry for you. Both of my boys are soldiers. My oldest son is a police officer. I don't know the circumstances, but I can see the pain. I am so sorry. What more often than not brings boards of selectmen and managers to the place you're at tonight is either a singular event, a single decision that the manager has made, or personality differences. I've had, I guess, the privilege of counseling many of my colleagues as they go through difficult events like this, and have had great experience in observing what are the circumstances that bring boards and managers to this, And how do these events resolve? That experience has taught me that it is entirely inappropriate to judge a manager by a single event as much as it is inappropriate to evaluate a manager on the basis of personality, agreement, or disagreement. Managers deserve, like everyone else in the pursuit of a professional career, to be judged on the body of their work, not a single event. I've heard an extraordinary situation here tonight in all the proceedings like this that I've been to over the years, and I've been to many. And I don't think I've ever heard a number of department heads and board and committee chairs come up to a microphone and openly, without reservation, espouse the quality of the professional performance of the manager in a situation like this. That is extraordinary. I hope the board will consider those thoughts. I hope you will also consider the consequences of what will happen if you decide to make a change. It is very much the case in the management profession, because it is a small one in Massachusetts. There's only a few hundred of us. When boards are considering changes of the manager, the profession watches. If the board decides to make a change, or at some point in the future Rick decides to pursue his career elsewhere, or he stays here for many, many years and retires, at some point there will be a vacancy here. The quality of the applicants from the management community that you will receive will be directly proportional to the way you treat your manager. If you judge him unfairly and make a change, that will send a message into the management community. If you do not treat him with dignity and professionalism, and remember, he is a professional who needs to pursue his career, if not here, then elsewhere. He is a father, he is a husband, he has a family, he has a good reputation that he has built a long, long number of years building. All of that should be protected by you. And if the board fails in that mission in any way, then the applicants that will seek to come here will not be of the quality that you will want, and they will not certainly be anywhere near the quality of this gentleman. Trust me, because we talk about it. When we sit at our monthly manager meeting at lunch, we talk about communities, and we talk openly about, is it a community we want to serve, or is it a community we don't want to serve? Nothing represents a community more than you five gentlemen. Nothing. Because you're the folks that the manager works for. I would urge you to please keep these thoughts in mind. I hope they're helpful. I admit they're biased. Rick is a friend and a colleague and has been so for 30 years, and I'm proud to say that. But I think much more importantly than that for you is what's best for the town of Abington. That's the decision that you have to make, and it's one that I made for almost 9 years. And it sounds like the change, if you were to decide to do that, would probably be vastly outweighed in terms of the consequences of that by trying to work through whatever it is the issue that is causing some of the board members concern. And by the way, there's folks out there available to you that can help you work through those concerns that have done it in other communities. I don't happen to do it, but there's folks out there, and I or the MMA can get you folks that'll help you do that. I hope those comments have been helpful, and for me personally, I hope more to the point that I've done justice to speaking about this extraordinary and fine manager and great human being. I truly hope that you understand that's who he is. And thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Public comment. Any additional public comment? Outside? Public comment? Having none, seeing none, I'm closing public comments. We'll move on to the agenda items. Oh, I apologize. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I did not see your hand.
Karen Bowen, 937 Plymouth Street, and this is in regards to Mr. LaFond, who I have no personal problems with, one-on-one. But there's been an incident in town where, again, and Deb, I'm so sorry about your son, where he did not listen. But we have an incident which is going to cost the town money, and it's in regards to sexual harassment, where a town employee actually brought this up to him, and there is emails and other things that are a trail, and he never paid attention to it. Now, I had a sexual harassment problem back in 1996. It stays with you. It makes you kind of ill to your stomach. There is retaliation. There is bad vibes around within the area where you work. And I think that this needs to be addressed because, number one, by state law, there is supposed to be a fair employment and a wage and hour poster in the community room. There's no posters out there stating the sexual harassment policy or the wage policy. The Town of Abington Policy Against Harassment is from 2001. 2001. What I would like to see is you take a proactive lead here and work with your employees and not just frou-frou them, which I feel that you did. You know, you have to, her son reached out to you, this other person reached out to you, and there could be some other people behind them. And this is going to cost the town money. So in the big picture, maybe he can do the management of the office with all the different departments. But still, there's a fine line. It's not a fiduciary responsibility, but he has a responsibility to all of his employees. And I think you failed on that. And as far as if a town manager disappears, Dory Jameson is very, very, very capable of doing the 6 months and thereon. She's done it before, and I would have total faith in her. So I just want to see the sexual harassment policy to be revisited, and here's a copy.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Good evening, gentlemen. Most of you know me. My name is Liz Shea, and I live at 3 Wyman Road. And in response to Mrs. Bowen or Ms. Bowen, I had a personnel issue. I am an employee in the town. I had a personnel issue with another employee in the town. And I wrote a letter to Mr. LaFond, and the problem was resolved. Then, no ifs, ands, or buts about it, and I have never had an issue again. And when I say issue, it was somebody creating a hostile work environment for me. So is that the same as sexual harassment? Maybe. Nobody here is ever going to know that. But it was a hostile work environment, and he resolved it immediately. So I don't want to hear anything that if anybody ever went to him, that it was not resolved, because my issue was resolved immediately.
Thank you. Public comment. Anything else for public comment?
Yeah.
Yes.
Beth Owings, 28 Pond Street. Just to remark back to the woman that was just speaking, I don't think that it's yours or anyone's place to say whether something was taken care of by him or not taken care of by him. You can speak on your own incident, your own experience, but you have no idea what Alex's mother and her family has gone through. So speak on your own and stay in your own lane. I think that would be more appropriate. And just to steal words from Chief Nuttall, I think that we're already in a chaotic state if we have what's going on with what happened with Alex. If the police are looking for help desperately and you're not doing a damn thing, I think we're already in a state of chaos. Thanks.
Any other public comment? Yes.
Nils Justberg, 188 Central Street. So my question, I didn't get involved much and heard about it, so was town council on these incidents, did you give advice? Did Rick reach out to you or to whoever the council is in town? For these, there's been incidents we hear about, but is town council usually involved?
Town council is usually involved.
Yes, I'm assuming they were involved, so.
They are involved,
Okay.
let me put it that way. We don't, we can't speak to litigation. 'cause
No,
it's
no,
public
but
comments,
I'm just asking if they were involved.
Yes, sir, they were.
All right.
Public comment. I see no public comment. I'm closing public comments and moving the agenda to action and discussion items. Item number 1, the Little League Board of Directors discussion on field use and conditions for the upcoming season. Do I have someone from the Little League Board of Directors here? Anyone? Name and your address, please.
Sure. Alex Tickenoff, 143 Center Avenue. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. I think as was noted in public comment already, I think there's generally an issue with our fields as it relates to Little League. I think, we see this as really a resource issue at the DPW. We've had a number of discussions with the DPW who's in charge of maintaining our fields. And I think they've been very receptive to our calls, our emails, but they just don't have the manpower to support the fields in town. And when I say the fields, I'm speaking really of 3 of 4 fields that we utilize in Little League. I think as was previously noted, the Plymouth Street field is maintained separately by the Little League itself. So just to give an idea of the numbers, it was noted there's a $25 fee that's assessed and paid to the town on behalf of each player in the league. That's supposed to cover maintenance of the fields. So we, last year, as a board on behalf of Little League, paid $6,800 to the town. And again, that's to maintain Arnold Park, Woodsdale, and Laidler Field. 2 of those fields are open space fields, meaning I believe that the town would already have an obligation to maintain those fields on behalf of the town. For Plymouth Street, we paid an additional $10,000 in order to separately maintain that field through a private landscape company. So I guess in total, approximately $17,000 in maintenance fees paid by Little League in order to make the fields playable. And I think anyone that's seen the fields knows they're not exceptional. They're some of the worst actually probably maintained fields on the Salt Shore when you travel around and see the other towns. Separate and apart from that, we paid an additional $16,000 recently to redo the Plymouth Street field itself, the infield. That was done based on sloping and lips in the infield that posed, I think in our opinion, a significant potential health threat or hazard to the kids as they were playing. So we felt that was necessary to do in order to keep the kids safe while playing on that field. And I would note, specifically regarding the Plymouth Street field, that the town doesn't maintain that field at all, that all of the improvements and betterments that are done by Little League to that field are really a benefit to the town with no additional cost or maintenance of that field. So we're really here today because we as a board and as volunteer coaches in the town, we take on a significant responsibility for going to the fields early, maintaining the fields, making them just playable most of the time for our kids in town. And I think we see the current arrangement with the DPW as something that's not working, it's not effective. We continuously hear complaints from parents noting the high cost of Little League that they pay while looking at the fields and wondering what the disconnect is compared to the amount they pay and the state of the fields. I think it was noted, I've said it, and it was said in public comment, there are safety concerns regarding the fields. And we just feel like we need to make a change to how they're maintained. The numbers that I put out there, they're not insignificant as far as dollars are concerned. We note that the fields really are in play for maybe 2 weeks in April, June, July, and May. So we're talking about maybe 15 weeks of maintenance on behalf of baseball. So we're looking for you to help us and guide us as to a possible short-term solution as it relates to maintaining the fields on behalf of our kids in town. We feel like, generally speaking, there's the kids in some ways are embarrassed to play on the fields when we have other towns come in and play with the travel teams. There's not that pride in town as it relates to the fields, and some of the kids would rather travel and play in another town, which I don't think we want any of our kids to feel that way. We want them to be proud of being from Abington and the facilities that we have. So we're looking for change. We can provide some suggestions to the committee if you'd like. I think we've shown that we can hire a third party to maintain Plymouth Street. I think we could get some scale potentially short term if we had the ability to go out and potentially look at a third party to come in and maintain all our fields. So we would like to explore that option in the short term, potentially other options. But again, knowing their town fields, we want to come and seek input from you as to some potential solutions for this season for the kids. I feel like they deserve it, and we're trying to look out for their best interest.
Okay. Ken?
To the town manager, this doesn't help them this year, but next year, I know it's still in the budget process, but my understanding, there's going to be more help for the DPW?
Well, DPW Director John Stone has requested some additional positions, and we spoke about it in advance. As was stated earlier, though, we've got about a $1.3 million gap we have to deal with in addition. What that does include proposed new positions, though. So it'd be too early for me to tell you what the prospects of that are. That being said, I'd be happy to meet with you, and I know I've had some park and recreational members who have saw this on the agenda too. I don't know if some are here tonight who were obviously interested in speaking also. I know the Board of Selectmen doesn't set those fees. That's done by the Park and Recreation Commission. So to the extent you'd like to meet with me and the DPW Director and members of the Park and Recreation Committee, we'd be happy to do that.
That'd be great. I think we've had some discussions with Park and Rec and with DPW and all the individuals we've spoken to. Again, it's not a finger-pointing exercise here. We really just want to try to, we know there's limited resources, and we're trying to think of inventive ways to try to maintain the fields for our kids. So that would be great. And then I think, we've even, as a board, talked about what's the long-term plan as it relates to, fields in town. And we know there's been some discussions around town as to the Griffin's Dairy and whether that's a feasible site as it relates to, potentially exploring that as a future option, as a way of consolidating fields into a single location, which I think would cut down on maintenance costs as it relates to those fields.
They might actually do that.
So yeah, I would like
No, that's very good. As you know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we did some significant work to try and make Griffin's Dairy available for some of the other youth organizations, and for various reasons, they decided not to use that facility or develop that facility. So you may have a good concept there. But again, it's a good conversation we can have.
If you do sit down with these folks, can you invite the Griffin's Dairy Committee too? Because I know they're eager for their fields to be used and get more people up there.
Sure.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of things to do up there now. It's nice.
Yes, certainly be happy to do that. I mean, if you're thinking more long-term, and Griffin's Dairy is a potential option, we have some, as you know, an oversight committee up there that would be probably of help too. So
that'd be great. Yeah, we're trying to juggle the short-term considerations, which is trying to get things ready for this season, obviously, and the next, just so the kids that are playing in the league now have the benefit of really just adequate facilities. And again, I think one of our board members gave a great quote where he noted we're not trying to get Fenway Park for our kids in the South Shore. We're really just trying to get safe and adequate, facilities for them to use, or fields for them to use.
It sounds to me like we're going to be all set in the long term, but I'm more concerned about the short term.
Right.
That's
sure. Yeah, and I don't know if I know this isn't intended to be a Q&A session, but I know we have had some conversation with John Stone, the DPW director, about the exact issues you're talking about. So, like I said, I'd be happy to, at your convenience, we can get the right people in the room if you'd like.
That'd be great.
Yeah, be happy to do that. Yes.
Could I ask the Park and Rec director to come up and speak, please?
Hi, I'm Rory Manning, 34 Orange Street. I am the chair of the Park and Rec Commission right now for the town of Abington. We did have a field usage meeting in October, I believe, October 22nd, where we did invite all of these sports teams in town to come to us and say, what are your issues with the fields? And we want to say, again, thank you for everyone showing up. Baseball was very, very specific, and I like specifics because it's easy to solve specifics. As has been stated many times, the biggest issue here is lack of manpower. John does his best to do as best as he can. The other issue is I, as a Park and Rec board, do not have a budget. Whatever money I bring in, I use, it goes right out. So field usage fees, the money that comes in right now is to keep exactly what we're doing, which is to cut the grass the way it's being cut and to line the fields. And that is all the money I have, and I do not have extra money to make improvements, or if there's a massive issue, as they said, they spent a lot of money on Plymouth Street. I don't have that money to do that work for them. The other issue we have is, with Eager Beaver, the money that comes in, that is spent back on that camp. That money is not available, and we don't pull funds from different things. All of the money comes in from the tuition for that. We bring in as much as we can, and we do as much as we can, but as everyone has said many times, I do what I can, but if I don't have a budget and I don't have any money, there's nothing I can do. And as has also been stated, we do set the fees, and we don't want to raise the fees because we know how expensive sports in this town can be, especially sports like baseball and football, where you have to pay for uniforms and helmets and equipment every year. And we don't want to raise the fees to $50, $70, $100 a kid per season to be able to do some of these amazing turnover things. And there are great resources in this town like the CPA Act, which I'm also on the CPA board as the Park and Rec liaison, where you can come as an organization and apply, and if it fits the parameters, we have approved projects. The CPA is funding that entire Griffin's Dairy project right now. And I was also on Park and Rec when we started attempting to put the soccer fields up there, when we had the big discussion of losing all the soccer fields for the new school building. And those did not pan out. Soccer, we had many discussions, and it just didn't pan out the way we wanted to, because the amount of work that needs to be done up there to get those open areas into a safe and playable field is a lot higher than anyone's expected. So we have discussed, the thought has come up to us of putting baseball fields up there. We've thought about putting soccer fields up there, even just leaving it as open space. But there is a lot of money that needs to be done and a lot of work that will have to be done up there before I feel safe and comfortable putting kids on those fields. And it also becomes another issue of cutting the grass again. So I want to thank you for letting me have this moment to speak.
Questions from the board?
With your expertise in the Park and Rec and the CPA, would you be able to provide the Little League with assistance in filling out the paperwork?
Yeah, I have no problem doing that. We sadly, it will not go into this warrant that will go to town meeting this year, but I'm 100% open to being that liaison for them.
Yeah, I think I was informed, but you can't use those funds.
They cannot be used for
upkeep.
maintenance.
However, they can be used, for example, the renovations they did at Plymouth Street, they could have used.
I would have to double check with our CPA contact, Stuart, who has been instrumental in helping us when we have questions. I don't know if that would be considered maintenance or not. I think if they did enough work, it is considered a new implementation, but I can't speak to that.
That's one of the reasons that I think the Griffin's Dairy should sit on this meeting, because that could be one of their phases. The next phase is to put ball fields or multi-use fields up there. That way, that would alleviate any problem next year, so.
Yep.
CPA money.
Anything else from the board? Anyone?
I mean, these are good long-term solutions. What do we have, Rick, what do you recommend for this year that, that can just improve from last year? And I know, maybe I should be talking to John.
Yeah, well, like I mentioned, we'll be happy to sit down anytime and speak. I've got to speak to John. This obviously isn't the place for a conversation with John, but at your own peril.
Thank you, Rory. One of the things we have this year is a new machine. It's called an Infield Pro. It's going to help us get the infields clearer, faster, require less manpower. So we're hoping that helps us a bit. Granted, we're short-handed. There's nothing we can do about it this fiscal year. We're hoping in the future to get a couple more guys anyway to help us with these fields. It's the problems with the fields definitely aren't for lack of effort. We're trying our hardest with what we have.
Okay. Thank you, John.
John, one question real quick. This year, is what you see is improvements from last year that's like going to avoid me from having to email you on the 4th of July again?
Yeah, that's all right. I don't care.
I noticed.
Just the new machine. We made some adjustments in-house with the personnel that might help us a little bit. I don't really want to get into it right here, but I think that will help us communication-wise. We failed on a couple two different days, communication-wise. We dropped the ball one day, and the fields didn't get done to their liking, and the baseball board dropped the ball on the other day. They said there were no games. Turned out there were games, and the fields didn't get done. But I think we'll do better in the future, definitely. Definitely. And we're putting, through the CPA, Rory CPA, fences around the Woodsdale ball field. We put one along the Plymouth Street ball field and Laidler, I believe. Yes, Laidler, with the help of True CPA.
Thank you, John.
Sorry, Rory.
Any other questions from the board? Please follow up with the town manager and Rory from the park and John to keep everyone in the cycle along with the Griffin Dairy for that meeting, all right? Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, everyone from the board. Next item on the agenda is the vote to rescind the original motion to reappoint the town manager to a subsequent 3-year term effective July 1st, 2019, and proceed with negotiation and executive session to update the existing contract. Jim?
A little history. Back in October, we took this vote. I had very little to go on. I had a group of people that were very upset with Rick, and I had my own interaction with them. Since then, I have heard on occasion that maybe that wasn't the right vote to do, that maybe we should revisit this. And early in January, I asked to have this vote rescinded. In the 2 weeks since, people came out of the woodwork. I want to thank everybody that's contacted me, called me, texted me. I may turn my phone back on soon. Those that showed up Saturday, and of course the people here tonight. I want to assure you that tonight we're going to take a vote, and my decision is going to be based on well-informed. The amount of information I got is just amazing. After the vote, I'm going to hold my head high because I know in my heart the vote I cast tonight is absolutely in the best interest of this town as a whole. That's all I got. Throw it back over to you.
Any of our other members want to speak to this before we?
I'll speak real quick. I'm
Go
not
ahead,
going to talk about how I'm going to vote because everybody knows I've spoke my piece at the last meeting, and everybody knows my thoughts on it.
Yes.
But I would like to thank everyone that showed up tonight to have their voices heard. It's really great to see that the community's engaged. I'd like to say that everyone in this room tonight has one thing in common. We all want what is best for the town of Abington. We may disagree on how to get there, and that's okay, but we must be aware that we all have the same intentions. We have to keep in mind that the 5 people sitting at this table have all given up something to be here, whether it's taken from their careers, their personal life, their families, or all 3. They volunteer to represent you. We have listened to debate both here tonight and in the community. We have done our due diligence and will vote for what we feel is best for the town of Abington. After we vote, the main thing we must remember is no matter how the vote turns out, we must move on. We as a community would be doing ourselves a disservice if we don't. Healthy debate of the issues is a good thing. Not everything that happens will we agree with individually, but we must move forward and continue to debate and act upon what we feel is right. We can't get caught up on our differences, but instead must look forward to achieve our collective goal of making Abington better tomorrow than it is today. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ken. Are there any other comments from the board? Yes, Ken?
As a member of the Board of Health and now as a Board of Selectmen member, Mr. LaFawn is the 3rd town manager that I've worked with. Our last town manager started out great, was a real go-getter, did whatever the Board of Selectmen directed him to do. However, at some point, he went off the rails, and when the Board of Selectmen could not reel him in, we were forced to let him go, which ended up being a costly endeavor. A town manager search committee, of which I was the Board of Selectmen representative, was formed, and from a not-so-large pool of qualified candidates presented the required 3 finalists, which were then voted on by the Board of Selectmen. Rick was chosen by the Board of Selectmen to be the town manager by a 3-2 vote. I was one of the 2 no votes. 2 of us felt that one of the other finalists would be a better choice. I felt that the town manager candidate that I preferred would be more gung-ho, be more innovative, and be more of a presence than Mr. LaFawn would be. However, the majority of the board spoke that at that time they preferred Rick. He had a history in Abington, along with a 16-year-old long proven track record of managing the town of Carver. Anyone knows that a town manager the last 16 years in one location, they must be doing something right, or to put it another way, not pissing off too many people because the old adage is, if you've been around long enough, you are sure to make enemies. Even though at the time I felt that Mr. LaFawn was the second-best candidate, I supported the board's decision and look forward to working with him. I still do not think that I was wrong with my first choice, but I will say, I'm sorry, this isn't a roast, I'm sorry, but
I probably agree with
I
you.
still do not think that I was wrong with my first choice, but I will say that Rick has ended up doing a much better job than I originally thought he would. Being thrown right into the fire at the beginning, starting, he was forced to lead our town through some tough fiscal times and provided much needed stability after the dismissal of the previous town manager. The last 5 years, the Board of Selectmen members have met annually with the town manager to do a review of his performance, a contract requirement, to go over their goals and how they would like to see the town move forward, and to let the town manager know what is needed to accomplish these goals and what he can do to improve his job performance. The first 5 years that Mr. LaFawn served as town manager, the Board of Selectmen has met with him in the late summer, compiled the results, and obtained a comprehensive list of what the board's goals and objectives are. This way, the town manager knows where he stands, more importantly, what he is being asked to do and what he needs to do to improve his job performance. This year, the town manager's 6th year in Abington, things have changed. 3 members of this board have not yet met with our town manager to do this performance review. Late last summer, as chairman, I asked members to schedule a meeting with the town manager, email the review forms that are used, and stress the importance and the fact that it is required of us in the town manager's contract. Since then, I have seen similar emails coming from the current chair to board members with the same request. Not only is the Board of Selectmen violating the town manager's contract, we are doing a great disservice to the town by not formulating goals, and a terrible injustice to the town manager by not doing these reviews. It is tough enough to do a job when you are questioned and micromanaged on every decision that you make, but to do this without the common courtesy of letting you know how you are doing, or worse, what you are expected to be doing, is the real issue here. I have asked what has changed from the last 5 years when the town manager received well above average reviews in all 10 categories, ranging from professional skills to staffing to fiscal management. The difference is that the members of this board is not doing its job. This board in its entirety is not doing its job by providing the town manager with the feedback, the input, or the leadership necessary to do this job. I have learned from my time in local government and from what I see in the local news that there is no such thing as a perfect town manager, ours included. If you want someone flashy, someone who's willing to take chances and gamble with our town resources, someone who wants the spotlight, then Mr. LaFawn is not the sort of town manager that you are looking for. I personally have had enough of that with our previous town manager. What we do have with Mr. LaFawn is someone who, without fanfare, has created an atmosphere where the working relationships between department heads is at an all-time high, with departments working together more as a team than ever before. I will admit that Mr. LaFawn has been innovative, creating a veterans district with the town of Abington better serve our veterans and more efficiently, and recommending we take the scary step to leave the Mayflower Municipal Group, which has not only resulted in savings the last 2 years, but allowed the town's employees more flexibility when choosing their health insurance. Abington recently achieved green community status with the help of our town manager. Mr. LaFawn oversaw the smooth transition of multiple departments into one DPW, which, if you look at the surrounding towns, is not always an easy thing to do, dealing with employees, multiple unions, and elected officials. Rick's personnel appointments have been well thought out. The new DPW chief, animal control officer, veterans agents, treasurer collector, brand new health agent, just to name a few, all done with deliberation, mindful of the best interests of the town and the departments in mind. Serving on the finance committee, what happened when I was on the finance committee? Serving on the finance committee, I remember the days of contentious town meetings where there was no agreement between town managers, finance committee, and department heads. We have had 4+ years of consensus on the town manager's recommended budgets. That says a lot to his budgeting, his ability to compromise, and his leadership skills. This conservative budgeting has also led to the town receiving at least $850,000 in free cash the last 5 years, at least. And an extremely healthy stabilization fund, and because these are the things that banks look at, the town's bond rating is better than it has ever been, allowing us to save thousands in loan payments. Our town manager is always there when needed, attending town events and every Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee meeting. I am looking for someone that is dedicated to this town, someone who will continue to effectively move Abington forward, someone that will rise above the politics and the drama that once again has taken hold of this board. 5.5 years ago, I voted against having Mr. LaFawn as our town manager. Today, I sincerely think that it is in the best interest of this town and its residents to reappoint Rick LaFawn.
Thank you, Ken. Any other members of the board?
I'll just make a very quick comment.
Yes,
People
sir.
know how I voted on the contract for Mr. LaFawn. and I stand by that. If anybody has any questions, I know there were people here tonight that wanted to talk and didn't. I'm very happy that the management of this town showed up to support Rick. I give him a lot of credit. I'm very disappointed. I will say this to everyone and everyone that's watching on television. I'm disappointed because I think a lot more employees, not department heads, had talked to me and should have been here and weren't, unfortunately. There's nothing I can do about that. I thought there would be more from the police. One of the concerns that I have with the police is the turnover, the major turnover that we have with the police department and the number of officers that this town is losing. And I'm not blaming that on Rick, but I think it's something that we have to address, and we have to address it whether Rick gets a contract or not. We have to address it soon, and I will certainly pursue that. Other than that, people know how I voted. I voted no against the contract, and I wouldn't be changing my mind. So.
Anything else? As the chairman of the Board of Selectmen and in the town of Abington, it's been a slight chair. It's only been 3.5 months that I've been chair, so it's a very rare time that I've been doing this. But I feel that I've done 2 terms in the Board of Health. I've tried to help the town. I've been a volunteer in this town in multiple places. And Mr. LaFawn has always addressed, or tried to address, whenever I've come to him with issues and complaints or concerns, to try to resolve the issues, complaints, and concerns to the best of his ability. I think that to do justice and to what they call do justice in the legal terms, and I am not a lawyer, I never have been and never will be. That's why I have town council here. That I feel that this town financially is sound, is doing well, is running well. Do we have issues? Yes, we do. There's no doubt about it. Every town does. Every town, every city and town in this state, all 351, have issues. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's excellent. Nobody has it down pat. I can't copy anyone. I can't point to anyone and say, we should do it that way because that's the way it should be done. We can just do it the best way we can. Everyone on this board is a volunteer. We volunteer to get elected. We sometimes put money out of our pocket to sit here. There's nobody here with, I don't believe, that thought that they were going to create a magnificent, huge change to this town. I think they came in hoping they could help the town change. And I think they still think they can help the town change, and I think that's what we're here to do our job for. I think that's why we want to be here. I'm here to help the town be a better town. That's what that's what I started with doing, that's what I'm continuing to do. I will run for re-election, just so everyone knows, and if I win, I win, and if I lose, I lose. I'm just trying to help the town. That's all I'm doing. So I voted in affirmative for Mr. LaFawn's contract, and I still stand on that ground based on the fact that I have no reason not to. So I will then ask that we are going to look at a vote for rescind the original motion to reappoint the town manager to a subsequent 3-year term effective July 1st, 2019, and to proceed with the negotiations and executive session and update the existing contract.
Mr. Chairman, before we do that,
yes, sir.
We, as selectmen, have been advised by town council of the ramifications of what will happen with all of this. I don't think it would be wrong for me to ask if town council or yourself would speak to those ramifications. I know other people in the audience have spoke to the ramifications and a 1.3 million deficit in the budget. But and Jim, I don't know how you feel about it, but I would rather, have town council at least express some of the ramifications that could happen with taking this action and any subsequent action.
Would you willing to come up and, can you speak from there, Rick?
Yeah, there's a microphone.
Would you just,
Whichever the board would prefer.
would you please come to the podium, please? Just announce your name, please.
Darren Klein, KP Law, through the chair.
Thank you very much.
Always a difficult question when you're asked sort of the legal ramifications in a public setting, because obviously the opinion that we provided was confidential information. So I will sort of answer your question
as best I can generally, because I don't want to go into all the specifics and all the different type of arguments, because that would put the town in a worse position potentially from a liability standpoint. But like any other situation, the board took a vote to offer, to extend the appointment of the town manager. And if they vote to rescind that tonight, a number of things could happen. The town manager could accept that, or the town manager could decide to challenge it. And there are a number of arguments that the town manager might make, disputing that he had relied on the previous vote, or that this is not a rescission, but a different type of personnel action. I'm not going to go into the details, but that's what would happen in any personnel action you take. I do think that on the flip side of that, the contract is clear that if you decided to not reappoint the town manager, you're required to give notice 150 days prior to the expiration of that term. That 150th day would be January 31st, and today is January 28th. So you would be acting in accordance with that contract provision by providing at least 150 days notice to the town manager if that's what the board was inclined to do. Your previous vote that was taken in, I believe, October 29th, did have an effective date of reappointment of July 1st, 2019, and obviously today is not July 1st, 2019, so you would be rescinding an action that at least predated the effective date of that vote, and that was also subject to, not subject to, but was also, it was not just the appointment, but also that there would be further contract negotiations, which haven't taken place yet. You know, in all due respect, council and I could go back and forth with arguments pro and con, probably a lot longer than any of you would want to stay here. But really, tonight's not the night for that. Anytime you take a personnel action, it can be accepted or challenged, and there are potential ramifications to that. And I just think I'd rather just leave it at that, because, you know, I have to be concerned with the town's potential liability, and it doesn't behoove the citizens of this town, whichever way you fall on this issue, for me to you know, divulge things that could potentially hurt the town. Thank you.
Could you answer one other question?
Yeah, I could answer as many questions as you ask me, or
so
do my best to dance around it again.
So based on what we're here to do, which is to vote to rescind the original motion to reappoint the town manager to a subsequent 3-year term effective July 1st, 2019, and to proceed with the negotiations in executive session to update the existing contract. Could you just explain the yes vote and no vote, what it means tonight, if we vote no or vote yes for this?
Okay, if you know, again, and not knowing in any way how the board...
Just an answer for yes or no,
yeah,
what it means.
So a yes vote to rescind would rescind the previous vote, and I would actually suggest, if that is the way, if that is the motion that one of the board members makes, and if there's a second, that a second part of that vote would also be to notify the town manager that the board does not intend to reappoint him as well. So a yes vote would be rescinding the prior vote, and would also be to notify the town manager that the board is not going to reappoint him. And a no vote would mean that the previous vote is in place, and there would be no notice. So that vote would stand, and also presumably by January 31st, the town manager would not be notified that he would not be reappointed, and you know, essentially that appointment would become effective.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Appreciate that. Does the board have any other questions for council? So that being said, I'm looking for a yes/no vote on the vote to rescind the original motion to reappoint the town manager to a subsequent 3-year term effective July 1st, 2019, and proceed with the negotiation executive session to update the existing contract. I'm going to go down the road. Jim?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Could I just suggest a sort of a friendly amendment to, and again, I have no idea
yes,
how the board's going to vote, but the other part of that motion would be and to further notify Mr. LaFawn pursuant to Section 13 of the parties' agreement that the board will not be reappointing him to another term as town manager.
As amended. I appreciate that. Thank you, counsel. Based on that, with the amendment, Jim?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, I'm sorry, Ken.
You need a motion and a second, I believe,
I was going to go, oh, I'm sorry. A motion and a second.
for that vote.
Do I have a motion for this vote, please?
I'll make that motion.
Tim makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Jim seconds. Any further conversation on the vote? If not, all in favor to vote to rescind the original motion to reappoint the town manager to a subsequent 3-year term effective July 1st, 2019, and proceed with negotiations, executive sessions, and the amendment regarding Section 13 to notify the town manager on or before January 31st.
Any further discussion?
Any further discussion?
Yes, and this is a very, very difficult decision. I already voted on the contract, and people are aware of that. I'm also very concerned about the town and, the ramifications this will cause not only to Rick, to the town. I've listened to the department heads and making changes. Someone had sent me an email that if we didn't do this, if we just went on and gave Rick his contract, that, maybe the Board of Selectmen should be sitting down with Rick and going over the things that we think need to be done. Although Rick is a strong town manager, I was certainly not in favor of having a strong town manager, but the charter passed, and so it did. I was against the charter, some of the things in the charter, and this is one of the reasons. It's very difficult for me because I'm not really backtracking on how I voted, but again, it's just difficult because I know the shape the town is in. I think there can and should and will be a lot of improvement, but that's all I have to say on that at this time. So,
any other discussion on the table?
I just want to comment on Tom's comment about the police retention problem, and I agree with him that we need to see that in this room at some time, and I'd like to see that on the agenda sometime soon. Other than that, I got nothing more to say.
Is there anything else in public discussion? So I'm going to proceed with, I think we...
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes,
for the record, Mike Levinson, I'm Mr. LaFawn's private counsel, Brainsky Levinson LLC. I just want to make sure it is clear. I know there's been a couple different motions and amendments to motions. I do want to make sure it is clear, if you maybe want to reiterate one more time, whatever the way they vote, what it actually does and what the ramifications, just to make sure it's clear. Just want to make sure the vote is effectually the way they want it.
Sure. There's essentially two parts to one motion. It is to rescind the prior vote of October 29th, whereby the board voted 3-2 to reappoint the town manager to a subsequent 3-year term effective July 1st, 2019, and also to notify Mr. LaFawn pursuant to Section 13 of the parties' agreement that the board will not be appointing him to another term as town manager. So a yes vote will rescind that prior vote, and will also notify the town manager, will give permission to notify the town manager that he will not be reappointed in accordance with the contract. A no vote will keep the prior vote in place. So the 3-2 vote of October 29th will remain in place. And the only other thing I just wanted to add, because it really wasn't as to liability, to your question, and I apologize for leaving out the first time, is in the case of a non-reappointment, regardless of whatever legal claims may or may not be made, there is a severance provision in the contract which would be activated by the non-reappointment as well. So that would be one effect of the non-reappointment, is there is a severance provision that would be activated.
Thank you. Counsel, okay? So there's a decision by the board, and it has to be made now. So a vote to rescind the original motion to reappoint the town manager to a subsequent 3-year term effective July 1st, 2019, and proceed with negotiations, executive session for the existing, update the existing contract, and also alert based on section 13 of the contract?
Yes.
Of the contract, to give the town manager notice by July 31st, 2019 of non-renewal.
By January 31st.
By January 31st, I'm sorry, by January 31st of his non-renewal.
Correct.
We had a motion that was accepted. We had discussion. We'll vote. Anything else by the board before we vote? Nope. Jim, can I have a vote, please?
A roll call vote?
I think, do we do a favorite vote or a roll call? We did a roll call vote before. Should we do a roll call? Just all in favor of rescinding it, say yes or no?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
You said non-renewal the last time. It's non-reappointment, not non-renewal.
Non-reappointment.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification, non-reappointment. The board took a individual vote before, I believe. I believe we need to take an individual vote again. I think,
Whatever you want to do.
I think I'd like an individual vote, if that's all right with everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, Jim, yes or no? Tim?
Yes.
Ken?
No.
Tom?
At this time, I'm going to have to say no.
And I vote no. It carries 4-1. It stays, he has his renewal for his contract. Thank you very much, everyone. Next thing on our agenda is the approval of the January 14th open meeting minutes, please. Thank you. No, I don't believe so.
Well, just for protection, if you don't mind. No, I'm kidding, I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
Thank you very much.
You want
Want to take a few minutes? We're going to take a 5-minute recess, and then we'll finish with our meeting. Thank you very much, everyone. 5-minute recess.
Okay, we're up.
All right, we're back on the Board of Selectmen's January 28th meeting to continue our meeting. Next thing on the agenda is the approval of the January 14, 2019 open session minutes. I'll take a motion when ready.
It looks like all members were present. I will make a motion to approve.
Okay, makes a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Jim seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No, it's unanimous, 5-0. Next thing on our agenda is a request from Jack Bailey to use the parking lots at the Center and North Schools and Bank Street for the parade for the March 17, 2019 St. Patrick's Day Parade. This is kind of like what we always do every year. Is this something Dory, is this something new we have to do because we have to pick a vote on this, or is this something the town automatically approves?
Yeah, you take a vote on it each year, yeah, along with approval of the parade itself.
So I'll take a, is there any discussion on this before we vote on it?
Real quick, any concerns, have anybody reached out to the fire chief? I know we had that issue at North School last week, over the weekend. Is the use of the parking lot, is that gonna be safe for everybody? I'd just like to,
Yeah.
Yes,
The
it'll be with
the
it.
parking lot is not disturbed in any way, but yes.
like the
it
building's
is.
not gonna
Right.
like come
And
down during the
both
parade.
chiefs are always consulted, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just so people in TV land don't know what we're talking about, I guess a pipe burst at the North School down in the basement. It was contained, and they checked the center school just to make sure that problem wasn't going to happen again, so.
Thank you, Ken.
Board members are going out now.
So I'd like to take a motion
Hang out.
to request for Jack Bailey to use the parking lots at Center and North School and Bank Street for the parade on March 17, 2019. Do I have a motion to accept?
God, fuck tonight.
I'll make that motion.
Jim makes that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Tom seconds. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's unanimous, 5-0. Good luck, Jack. Discussion on the federal furlough employees. Mr. Town Manager.
Yes, this was something Ken brought to my attention that he had seen in another community, Marshfield to be specific. And the goal of the program would to offer deferments for taxes and other fees, in our case, water, sewer, for those federal employees who were impacted, I would say really still are impacted by the long federal government partial shutdown. And again, as I said, Ken brought this to my attention. In your backup information, you'll see the Marshfield report. And in that, the treasurer collector thought this would be supportive of this, and she also got the permission of the water department and the sewer department to be included in this program. She did put together, just for your benefit, the appropriate application form and what it would take to move this along as individuals might apply. You might think that the issue is moot at this point, now that there's a short-term, reopening of the government, but as we all know, that could be short-lived too. So, like I said, the treasurer collector has done some homework. She's talked to her counterpart in Marshfield, and she doesn't believe there'll be any administrative issues for administering this if the board chooses to take advantage. I would think at some point in the future, the Board of Selectmen might determine that if you accept it, that there'd be no longer need for it. I'd hate to say that it's only good for a certain period of time, till, like I say, till this, the government shutdown is over, where technically it is, but I think we'd be naive to think that this might be the end of it. So I would say if your board chooses to adopt this program, then I would say it would be left intact until such time this board decides to lift it.
In Marshfield, they did 45 days. I mean, I would have no problem with saying 60 days from today, and that way, at that point, we'll know whether there's another layoff or government shutdown. Exactly. It's just something to help people, that are in need.
Rick, what, the Department of Revenue, have you anybody heard from them, or?
We haven't heard from the Department of Revenue specifically.
I know because the government was closed, you probably didn't hear from them, but.
Yes, and I know there are other communities doing this, but as far as we know, there's been no objections from the Department of Revenue in those other communities, but, I mean, you raise a very good issue in that there isn't specific legislation by the state that allows this to happen per se. That's why we do know that other communities we spoke to, they're not having opposition from the Department of Revenue, so I don't want to say it's a fine line between, you know, asking permission and asking forgiveness, but I think that's kind of where we are right at the moment. But I know that as you might know, the governor is also trying to make certain provisions available at the state level in such a way, whether it's allowing for eligibility for unemployment, and the same thing with tax payment. So it's very consistent with what the state is doing at that level.
Well, as you know, Rick, I was a treasurer collector in a couple of communities, and trying to get people to, you know, waive penalties or interest on their taxes became a hassle. As a selectman in Abington, and I certainly feel for the government workers, personally, I wouldn't be in favor of it. And it's just because we're talking about excise tax bills, we're talking about mortgages, we're talking about, you know, and I know the government is shut down, and I feel bad, but there's so many things, and I know when I was the treasurer here in Abington, the people I had to collect from that, you know, if I had some sort of deferral payment, you know, back then, I probably would have done it, but I'd be opposed to it. That's just my opinion, so.
Anything else from the board?
Town will not put tax liens on properties owned by affected workers, will not defer payment on quarterly tax bills, will not collect interest on outstanding tax bills, water and sewer. So I will make a motion to start this program for 60 days.
I have a motion, do I have a second? For 60 days.
I'll second.
Any further discussion on the board?
What happens after 60 days? It just fades away, or we revisit it?
If the furlough starts again, if the government shutdown starts again, we should revisit it.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
4-1. I see nothing else on our agenda. Does anyone have any comments? Or
When's our next meeting?
14th?
February 11th.
February 11th.
You're
that's
thinking
right.
Valentine's Day, Bob. It's understandable.
It's always
There's a lot of
on
love in
his
the room tonight, but come on, let's not get
always
carried
on his
away.
mind.
So February 11th is our next meeting scheduled.
Is there anything anybody wants to see on that agenda? I would think that we continue the North School discussion, right? The 2 school projects.
Yes. I also would like the open law meetings on there. I'd like to make proposals for an adjustment to the public comment.
Public comment policy.
Yes. And anybody else on the board who might want to make changes can also bring up their changes, but I'd like to bring it up to the board.
For the public comment section?
For the public comment section, I have some ideas I'd like to add to it. If you don't agree, you don't have to vote for it, but I think we should talk about it.
I actually had some ideas for doing the agenda going forward. Maybe we just encompass that all into one.
So can we add a conversation on the public comment policy and the formation of the agenda for, it's
Yeah,
part of
sure.
our issue, our next, is that agreeable to the board?
And what, Jim asked for one earlier, right? Jim, didn't you
What?
ask for something that you want on the agenda?
I agreed with you that we need to get the cops in there on their
But you asked for it to
problem.
be, you asked for it to be put on the agenda.
Soon or whatever, no rush.
I just have a concern about that, not that I don't think that's worthy of being discussed, obviously it is, but I believe that's something that we've been talking about as far as contract negotiations, so was it something that we can talk about in open session now? I don't want an unfair labor practice thrown at us, which happens anyway.
Sure. No, and I think that would be a question for town council before, just to know what
If you'd rather have a roundtable.
know what the parameters of such a conversation may be. I know the board, without any details, has talked about this in executive session with the police administration and town council. So again, just getting whatever parameters would be allowed under, to the extent that something would be an open session. So we'll have to figure that out.
For the next meeting, at least to
That's
talk
fine with
about your contract. We have to sit down, and I brought this up before, I tried to bring it up in executive session, but it's the board's, whatever the board wants to do. If we want to sit down as a whole and negotiate with the town manager in executive session, or if there was a subcommittee of 2 members wants to meet and come back with recommendations, it really doesn't matter to me if the board has strong feelings or opinions on that.
I'd be good with an executive session.
Yeah.
Next meeting.
And the whole board, I think the whole board would be. I think, but
I agree with that.
We can decide next week. So can we add an executive session for the,
Retention thing, if you want to put an executive session, whatever, it's not,
I'm not trying to hide it, but we already talked, if you recall, I brought up some ideas for retention in the next contract.
yeah, it doesn't have to be an open session. If I have to withdraw that request, I will. I'll let you guys decide what you want to do.
If no one has anything else, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have any other public comment?
Go Patriots.
Go Patriots. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. Go Patriots.